Leif Babin, dude, I am so stoked to have you here today.
Man, thanks for having me. It's awesome to be here.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Seriously, though, I've been looking forward to this for a long time, and I get nervous for every one of these, so we have to do a warm up. And so people are always wanting to know what gentlemen like you carry on themselves every day to protect yourself, especially, today. A lot of weird things are happening in the country right now. It's no secret. Crime is on the rise. And so it's a lot of people are, as we talked about at breakfast, are looking to learn. What do they do? What do they carry? How do they act nowadays? What are things to look out for? So we cover a lot of these segments as a warm up. And what do you carry on yourself every day for protection? Being a family man.
Being a family man, being a member of my community, the primary weapon system I carry is a Staccato CS, which is just their small concealed pistol, and it's a great pistol. It's super accurate, which matches the bigger Staccato XC. That's their full size pistol that I love so much that I can't wait for you to try.
I can't wait to try one.
So we have a little kit that we put together as an EDC kit for bruiser arms. So that Staccato CS is the go-to with an extra mag. I've got a half-face blade, 4-inch Humint that I don't know if you know Andy Arbido or not, but those are the best fixed blades, man. They're just wicked that he makes. I've sawed the heads off with elk of those things and cleaned tons of game with his blades. He was a teammate of mine out on the West Coast.
Oh, did you guys? I never had the opportunity to meet him. He did just send me some folders. Looks like he's getting into folders.
Yeah, he's getting into folders as well. Yeah,
really nice.
The folders are awesome. For folders, I'm partial to the Emerson. I've got a CQC 8 Emerson. And we went with a mini, or it's called the Horseman, which is like it has the wave feature on it. So when you draw it out of your pocket, it like instantly opens. And I've known Ernest Emerson for a long time. He started making those things in his garage. He gave every member of my platoon a free knife before we deployed. And that was, these are $300 knives back as in the Navy, that was like a huge thing. So I carried up Emerson with me on every combat op.
No kidding. You still have it?
That's kind of the go-to folder.
That's awesome.
I have the one he gave me, and then I bought a couple more that I carry. It was always at least one of those was going with me.
Do you carry a fixed blade on your person today?
That Humint, that 4-inch Humint half-face blade is I think from a self-defense blade it's unbeatable.
So I got it. Did you guys do blade training when you were in the teams?
I didn't.
Have you ever?
Just messed around with it. I mean, we've done some combatives training in my jiu-jitsu gym,
Same here.
Some people got super into knives, and I think having a knife as a tool. I mean, I used my fixed blade knives on combat operations to open my MREs.
Yeah.
So
I still use it this day, for Amazon packages.
But it's definitely like that half-face blade Humint is awesome. I think it's also great to carry some. Have you seen the snake staff systems?
I just got those tourniquets.
Those everyday carry tourniquets are awesome.
Yeah, Dom Razzo actually turned me on to those, and dude, super cool company too.
Yeah,
like really cool company. When I was talking to them, they told me that they made them the way they did because the regular tourniquets would not work on little kids or pets. And I was like, holy shit, super cool company.
I think always having a tourniquet on you is great. I mean, you never know when you're going to need that, so that's been good. I do like to carry a flashlight typically, but that CS that I carry has a light on it.
Nice,
and,
nice.
Just rock the EPS carry Holosun on that. If you don't have like that enclosed emitter on your pistol, I think is key, just to keep it from getting dirty and lint covered and dust covered.
Do you like the red dot?
I do. I like the green dot better than the red dot.
Why?
Are you not a red dot shooter?
Dude, yes, I'm turning into one, but well, I mean, when we were in, at least we were in at the same time, and they'll come out in the show. But they just we had those little reflex. Was it the reflex? Well, the J point. J point. That's what we had. They kept breaking.
I didn't know anybody that was rocking one of those on their pistol when I left active duty. And
Yeah.
I think, to see people transition to that now, whereas now pretty much everybody is running, some kind of a holographic sight on their pistol. It took me a while to get used to. I had to do a lot of dry fire. Like, it's just acquiring the pistol, I think, is the hardest thing.
Yeah.
But just having a friend running me through some of the drills on that, it is. I think once you get used to that, man, I'm a right-handed shooter and left eye dominant.
Me too.
So
Me too.
that to me enables me to just open up my eyes and use both. And something about the green dot just seems to be a little faster acquisition than the red.
I've heard that from a couple people. Yeah, I'm definitely more accurate with the red dot, especially as I start moving back on the yard lines. But I'm just like, dude, I'm not as fast. I'm not as fast. How long did it take you to catch up?
It took me quite a few mags.
Yeah.
Quite a few mags. And I still, like, if I pick up my, I've got a Sig P226 Legion. If I pick that thing up and shoot at iron sights, I mean, we just have so many reps on that,
Yeah. Do you like Sig still?
I started shooting staccato about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and I've just found those staccatos to be just absolute top of the line pistols. Their XC, just the recoil management on that for a full size pistol, the compensator is it's you run through like some shooting courses, and you get spoiled rotten with that thing, man. You get absolutely spoiled rotten. If you go back to something that doesn't have a compensator on it, you have to really start to control the recoil, because it's just a super fun pistol to shoot. It just handles really well. I think Staccato's done an amazing job, and they're building, all made in America.
Nice.
Right they're just north of Austin and Florence, Texas, and they've got if you go in there and tour the factory, the blank steel blank that they use to make the slide costs more than an entire like Glock 19.
Are you serious? Wow.
So it's just super well made, high quality products, and they're an awesome company.
Well, I got you a present. So it's not a staccato, but I thought I'd bring you back to your roots in the SEAL teams
that's
here a little
awesome.
bit.
Yeah.
So I got a buddy over at SIG. His name's Jason, and I told him you were coming on, and he was like, "Oh man, I love that guy. He's like, he's got the best leadership lessons." So that's the latest.
It's amazing, bro.
That's the latest SIG 365.
That is freaking cool.
They're redoing their whole optics line, and if you look at the mags, I think they hold 21 rounds. So,
Bro, that is an awesome pistol. I will carry that one with pride, and that is freaking cool. Obviously, SIG is very near and dear to my heart. I have quite a few SIGs. I've shot SIG for years and years and years. And while I love the staccatos, man, SIG does a great job, and this is freaking cool. In fact, the SIG 320, before I started carrying that staccato CS, the SIG 320 was my
nice.
That's freaking awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we both learned how to shoot on a SIG at the exact same time in Bud's class 241. So
everybody makes fun of that double action now.
Yeah.
I love that double action.
yeah, man. So I thought it would be a pretty fitting, pretty gift. Thank you. And one last question before we wrap up the EDC stuff. What do you? I always like to ask this question because it makes people think. And so, what do you think the biggest mistake is for newbies? Who are looking to carry a firearm to protect themselves, or a knife, or whatever it is. What do you think the biggest mistake people make is when it comes to self-protection?
Man, that is a great question. I think people get. I think it's two things. One, they don't understand proper safety procedures, and so if you're carrying a fixed blade, whether it's like Dom Rasso's knives or a half-face blade or something like that that's razor sharp, if that thing comes out, like, you're gonna stab yourself, you're gonna put that thing through your abdomen, that's gonna be terrible. Same thing for a pistol. Just the safety procedures. I got young kids at home, and unless I'm in a high threat environment, I typically don't like to put a round in the chamber.
No kidding.
And I do that for a couple of reasons. One is because, look, I got to keep my firearm away from my kids, right? And I have to teach them about firearm safety, which I have. Those are two absolutely necessary things. But I think that is a universal symbol. If you're coming at me aggressively, and I draw in my pistol and jack around in the chamber. I don't care if you're not an English speaker. I don't care if, everybody knows what that means, right? You're about to get shot. And so I think that's kind of the ultimate, like, you can't fire warning shots, but that's kind of the ultimate, like, oh man, this is
your
this
warning.
is a serious situation. And so I think to me, I just practice at the range, like drawing, and obviously that's something you have to do all the time. If you got in a situation where you were panicked, and you didn't put a round in the chamber, that could cause all kinds of horrible problems for you. But I think people rely on that sometimes instead of actually their own situational awareness, and they're not paying attention. And obviously, you could walk down the street with a loaded handgun and your finger on the trigger, and if you're not paying attention, somebody can smash you in the back of the head with a brick. So I think just maintain that situational awareness, the safety aspect of being able to control those things, make sure they're in a good sheath, make sure that the whatever concealed carry holster you're using for your pistol is that it's that thing is in there, it's not coming out. And obviously, I think also just practicing with it so that you can be extremely comfortable. The people that I see that are they're not comfortable. They want to carry to protect themselves or protect their families, but they're not comfortable with it. So that if when your adrenaline's running, you're not going to make stupid decisions. You're not going to get emotional about things. You're not going to draw weapons when you shouldn't need them. And obviously, then you're introducing, in a situation, you're only making the situation worse, right? Where you either use them when you shouldn't, which would be horrible, or have someone take them away from you. And I think sometimes when people ask me, like, hey, I want to buy a firearm, the first thing I always tell them to do is, do you have a safe? Like, do you have a safe? You got to have some place where you can securely store that thing and lock that thing. And I think people want to start carrying it without really taking it to the range, putting a bunch of rounds through it, getting comfortable with it.
Yeah.
That's where I see, I think, a lot of issues.
Well, I appreciate it. I think you're right on the money. I mean, I think a lot of newbies just think like, oh, I have a gun now, I'm good. And it is a tool. You have to get yourself familiar with it, how to use it, how to safely use it. And I mean, it's not, you're not going to learn it, when you need it. And I'm just going to reference something that's like, they made all these door stoppers, right? For the active, I mean, it's no secret. The schools are getting shot up like all the time now. And you see it time and time again. And I won't mention any names, but, or schools that I'm talking about, but they have all these devices now that have been invented to keep somebody from entering a classroom. And time again, man, you see these active shooters, come in, and the staff is not familiar with how to utilize the equipment properly, and lives could have been saved had they known how to use their tool. And these are super simple tools. They don't require fundamentals, but if you know what I mean, and they can't figure it out under stress. And so if you think you're going to figure out, how to defend yourself with a firearm when you need to, it's not going to happen. And so you have to learn how to use the tool before. And I do have one other question, because you have kids, they're older than my kids. I'm sure you never stopped being around firearms. And so how did you introduce firearms to your kids?
That's a great question. I mean, I grew up with firearms, and we didn't even have a safe growing up, as kids. I just knew that, like, I wasn't to touch that firearm. My dad was going to spank the fire out of me, right? If that was going to happen, the consequences were going to be severe. And so I don't think you can start your kids early enough talking about firearm safety. My wife's from San Francisco. She didn't grow up around firearms, so she was very like, hey, with toy guns, don't point that thing at me. She still gets upset because my sons will be in the kitchen or the living room blasting her with like Nerf guns and stuff like that. what I try to tell her is like, you have to absolutely differentiate between toy and real, right? This is toy gun, right? We're playing, obviously I don't want to get shot in the eyeball with a Nerf gun or, like you can obviously have some rules around that. My kids know not to shoot their mom because there's going to be hell to pay for that. But which I'm going to enforce. But I think just that this is a real firearm. You don't touch that unless you're with me, and I'll show you how to use that. Let's talk to firearm safety, start instilling the rules in them, understanding firearm safety. And I just don't think you can do that early enough. And I remember as a kid growing up, there were times in high school where, some kid that didn't really grow up around firearms and got a hold of his dad's pistol and is like showing it off at a party, being able to say, hey man, let me see that thing, like it's not loaded, and you drop the mag and there's a round in the chamber, and things like that to say, understanding like, hey, I'm going to take that firearm away from this guy. I'm going to do it in a professional manner. I'll give it back to him unloaded. But making sure that when people are doing things that are unsafe, to step in and say, no, we're not going to do that. And I think I just don't think you can start that early enough. I got a little single shot 22 for my son when he was probably 5. We started working on, single shot safety, like safety manipulation, working on keeping the barrel pointed in a safe direction, treating the gun as if it's loaded, knowing your target and what's beyond it, finger out of the trigger, till he's ready to shoot, all those things. And I've done that with my daughter. I'm doing that now with my youngest son who just turned 5. So I just don't think you can do that stuff enough. And I think we live in a world where firearms get demonized, by the other side as being bad. And even like the NRA's like Eddie the Eagle program was like, you're brainwashing kids. There was people on the left that were kind of saying that, and we're like, look, this is a safety program. We're trying to teach kids firearm safety. And I think that's your responsibility as a parent to make sure that your kids understand firearm safety, know that that's not a toy, aren't ever going to even grab something and play with it, in any capacity. And obviously you got to keep it away from them, and not even make that an option. But I just don't think you can drill that enough into their heads.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful that I had a dad that did that for me. And I'm just thankful that I did that enough. I did that for my kids. One thought on this, that when we talk about being safe is, we learned in my time in the Battle of Ramadi in 2006, that we were real focused on one of our first big operations. We're focused on the enemy and what they're going to do, because they had 3,000 to 5,000 enemy fighters, and the Army had these mass casualty collection points, and we spent probably 80% of our time focused on what the enemy was going to do and how they were going to move on us, and how they might attack us with IEDs or RPGs or rockets, mortars, machine guns, because we're going in a pretty hot area, and we ended up, the only shots fired at us in the first 24 hours of that were friendlies. I had 50 cal rounds coming 2 feet over my head from a U.S. tank. Even though we briefed our position, even though we were marking our position, even though we let everybody know on our over the radio. And that to me was, that we realized we had to flip that. Like I needed to be focused on 20% of my focus needs to be on what the enemy's gonna do and what the bad guys might do and be prepared for that. 80% of the time I need to be focused on how I'm gonna prevent a horrible friendly fire situation from happening. And we realized that if we didn't take extreme measures to mitigate the risk of that happening, it was going to happen. And I don't think that's any different when it comes to your family, your kids, carrying weapons on you, with your everyday carry. Like you got to be thinking about what's going on all the time. You got to be thinking about those safety procedures. You have to take extreme measures to, prevent your kids from being able to get a hold of things, locking things away in a safe, storing them properly, being disciplined, and just constantly harping on that. And then constantly thinking about positive identification, assessing what's going on around you all the time, putting the reps in at the range so that you're going to prevent that kind of friendly fire, horrible situation from taking place. And so I think when people start to carry weapons on themselves or want the ability to defend themselves, they usually put too much emphasis, I think, on the threats and not enough on how am I going to prevent myself from, from shooting myself in the leg, if I don't know how to use this thing, or stabbing myself with my knife, or having my kids get a hold of this thing, and it actually causes way more problems than it would have if you didn't have one at all,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't think you can do enough of that.
Man, that's a lot of great advice in this segment. I appreciate it, Leif. Thank you.
Thanks, Shawn.
No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.